Hi, I'm Phil Rude, and I'm an illustrator, comic book artist, and sometimes writer. Today, I'm going to be inking a piece on Deleter brand comic paper. This paper is sized B4, which is a little smaller than the Bristol that I'm usually drawing on. And it's not as heavy a weight as Bristol. Um, and I'm inking with a variety of pens and brush pens and felt tip pens that I've found work pretty well with this kind of paper. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in a little bit, as well as what I'm inking, which is the cover of my latest comic, Roadrunners. Before I get into that, I just want to take a quick minute and acknowledge the passing of a great singer-songwriter that has meant a lot to me over the years, and that is Mr. Todd Snider. I first came to know Todd and his music as he was a guest on the Bob and Tom radio show, morning Zoo Crew radio. And he would go on there and he would play some of his more kind of comedic songs. They weren't quite straight like stand-up comedy songs, um, but some of them were pretty jokey, and some of them were just very clever, kind of weird or wordplay songs. But they were all just really poetically written and really clever and really fun. And from there, I started finding some of his albums and seeing like a bigger spectrum of alt country and neo folk songs that he was making. He reminded me of kind of a younger version of John Prine, or a newer version of John Prine, who is also one of my favorites. And I found out later, he was on John Prine's record label. It's all the same soup. Anyway, about the time that I started getting into a lot of his music and tracking down some albums, I knew that he had gone to rehab to help deal with some of the substance demons that he was fighting. I don't know all the particulars. But when he came through that, he released an album titled East Nashville Skyline. And that coincided with a big change that I was contemplating in my life, which was something I've talked about here before. It coincided with me sort of starting to think about getting sober. I've always felt like I am a creative person, and even back then was doing creative things. I wasn't really drawing so much at that time, but I was focused a lot on writing, particularly trying to learn how to be a screenwriter. And I had a big fear that if I got sober, I wouldn't be creative anymore. It's something I think a lot of creative people who also deal with addiction or mental illness or depression, we have these things where it's like, oh no, you have to suffer for your art kind of thing. But anyway, I listened to East Nashville Skyline, and I realized that not only had Todd Snider managed to still be creative after getting cleaned up, he put together a really powerful and brilliantly written and performed album that was also still very funny. Like everything was there, and everything was there even a little better than before, I think. And not better, different. It was a real quality work. Anyway, it was one of the first indications that when you have some clarity in your mind, you can start doing actually better work. Not just, maintaining, but you can do better work. And that album was very encouraging to me and did help influence my decision to get sober not long after that. And for that, I will always be grateful to Todd Snider, in addition to being grateful for all the wonderful music that he dropped throughout the years. It's a huge loss to the music world, to the alt country world, and just personally as a fan of his music, very sad. But R.I.P. Thanks for everything. Thanks for every good artistic and personal influence that your work had over me. Now we're finally going to get down to talking about this piece that I'm inking today. This is the cover for my newest comic, Roadrunners, which is an 8-page mini comic, like a zine style comic made on folded printer paper, made on a Xerox machine. Old school kind of comics. I wrote and drew this a couple weeks ago. In the span of about a week, I made all the interior pages in a week, just as a way to try out this new paper. I recently, when I say recently, time is a flat circle. I have no concept of the passage of it anymore. It just flies by or it crawls. It was actually, a few months ago, I got a bunch of this paper to try it out. And I also wanted to try out a couple techniques and a couple processes to see if they'd work. When I was done, I thought, 8 pages, maybe this is perfect to print a zine, to make a mini comic, an ash can. So I did. And I think part of the reason I was able to draw it pretty quick, just on that note, before we get too far away, is that this is a little bit smaller. Like I said earlier, the deleter paper it's size B4, and I can't remember what that translates to. It's a 14 by 9.5 or 10, something like that, inches. And it's marketed as manga paper. Like this is a little bit smaller than the Canson Bristol that I'm usually drawing on. And honestly, that does make a difference in the speed that I draw. There's less area to cover, obviously. So that definitely plays in. But also, since it's smaller and it's going to print smaller, there's less detail involved. You don't have to do as much, because when you print smaller, it gets lost in the reduction. A lot of the small, real fine details. So this feels a little bit more like a broad strokes kind of art for me. It's pen and ink. It's maybe a little bit sketchier than when I'm working bigger, but it not only helped me get the art done faster, but it was actually kind of fun to work this way. It was a little looser, a little less precious, and I actually enjoyed working this way. Anyway, when I was done with the interior pages, I drew a cover, as you can see here, and a back cover that will come up later in the video. Set to inking them, set up my camera so I could show that in this video. But I also, went through all the steps of making the print document. I made a PDF of the pages in the order I'd need to put, they can't be in reading order because they have to print differently. And I headed off to a local print center to run off 20 copies of the interior pages. And I also put in an order to have that same print center print the covers separately, so I could get those done on a heavier cardstock. They have a little bit of weight to them, hold the color ink a little bit better, and it just gives the book a little bit of sturdiness and weight and good presentation. I've not made a comic this way in a long time. I've made some zines, and I made the first Professor Whiskers story as a printer comic. I made a smaller, one copy paper page folded into 8 pages as a class project for a school visit that I did a few years ago. I've done this a handful of times, and it's always fun. It is a lot of work, as I'm going to show you here in this video of me doing it. But it's been a few years since I've done that. But when I started doing some local cons last year, started back to tabling and doing some marketplaces and events, I met this local artist named Dean. I've talked about her on here before, and she makes comics this way. And hers are really good quality. They're really fun. It's a handmade object, and it's really cool. And it really made me think about making a comic this way again. And this was just the perfect project for that. So I did dive in with this one, and it was actually really great to put these books together with my own hands and do the work. Like I was saying, it is a lot. It's tedious. You don't just send it off to the printer and they do it. You're limited in how many of these you can make. It takes time. You got to fold it. You got to do everything by hand. The staples. You got to line everything up. You got to double check your work 1,000 times, because if you don't paginate the pages right, it's a simple craft, but it is a lot of attention to detail, and I think it's really rewarding to actually do it and have this sort of art object at the end of it. It's a simple craft. It's not super complicated, but you are putting a lot of yourself in it, and that makes it really cool. It's really cool to do it. It makes a really cool kind of book that's very unique. It's a small batch kind of book, and it's a handmade object, and it's, I don't know. This was really a rewarding process, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm proud of the outcome. As for the story of this book, it's a post-apocalypse story. It's about a woman and her motorcycle and a bird all trying to outrun an enemy from above as they run across the desert. I remember years ago my friend J.F. Dubois saying that every genre writer, I'm paraphrasing here, every genre writer has a vampire story in them that they have to get out at some point. It's just sort of like you have to get it out. It's in there. You have to get it out. And I kind of feel that way about post-apocalypse stories, that I had to tell at least one. That also might just be because I am a fan of the Mad Max franchise. So this was my post-apocalypse story. And I'm not sure if I'll do more. I may have more than one in me. I really had a lot of fun writing and drawing this one, even though it was a lot of illustrations of vehicles. And as I said before, I really enjoyed the process of working at a different size and working with some different tools and different paper. I wouldn't mind revisiting this and spending more time in this particular desert hellscape. But we'll see. We'll see what happens down the road. If you'd like to read this comic, I have it available in my shop. You can get one of the limited number of print comics if you live in the States. And that comes signed and numbered with a Roadrunner sketch. Or you can get a PDF download of the comic for just $1 single US. I will have a link to the store listings in the description of this video. And that's going to do it for me this time. Please subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. Go to philrootart.com and see what I've got going on over there. Take care of yourselves. I will talk to you later.